What's up, everyone? I've been trying to make this video for literally a few days now. And every time I think it's time, there's something more to integrate, assimilate, digest. It's been a crazy 8 days. It's been a super intense 3 months. There's unprecedented change and upheaval happening in our world, on our planet. And what is undeniable is that we are all being asked to change. There is no single person who is exempt from the invitation, the opportunity, and the necessity that our current circumstance, our current situation is asking of us that we change. And I want to just straight up say that I'm hyper aware of the current climate of, there's a risk in saying anything about anything because there's always a countervailing opinion or viewpoint. There's no rule book, there's no playbook for this. And so I'm willing to get it wrong. I'm willing to be messy and just, speak from the heart. And if this lands, if this resonates, great. And if it doesn't, I'm okay with that. And if it doesn't and you want to have a healthy dialogue about it, I'm okay with that. I'm open to that. And if you're not able to have a healthy dialogue and you need to express something other than that, I'm okay with that too. I don't think anything that I'm going to say is going to be particularly controversial, but I'm just saying that because I think it's very clear that we are living in a climate where there's a war of information happening. And so much of what is happening in the exterior world is triggering us deeply at an internal level, and then that is just further fueling into this war of opinions and different viewpoints and narratives. And in some way, I believe that that's happening for us. Like, it's really making it impossible for us not to see how divided we really are, how deeply infected we really all are with different forms of the illusion of separateness, which manifests in a number of ways, including racism, including hatred for another person based on their beliefs, based on their choices of how they want to live their life, based on how they show up on social media and how they choose to respond to a situation and everything in between. How they're responding to the coronavirus, what their particular stance is on what the appropriate way to respond is to that situation. We are so divided. And what I always look for in any situation, I believe this is just like how I'm wired and what my orientation is in life, as a soul, is I look for the path to oneness. I look for the common thread, whether that's me being in a room full of people and wanting to somehow presence whatever it is that's going to make us all one in some shared awareness and, in some shared experience. And music is so much a vehicle for that. And I think that's why I have really given a huge part of my life to the craft of music and to the creation and sharing of music, because it has the power to do that in a way that words and conversation, often fail. And so, just looking at everything that's happening through that thread and through that lens of oneness, which I believe is, the expression of our true nature, of our divine origin. In that place, from that place, we are truly one. And yet in our humanity, in these bodies, with these minds and our different histories and different human experiences and life stories, we become further and further separated from that place of oneness within ourselves, and then from the capacity to relate to the others that present in our reality and in our lives as if they are truly one with us. We start to see them as if they're separate. And so the more separate we become from that source of love and that origin, that divine origin within ourselves, the more likely we are to view the world through a lens that is separatist, that is divisive. And as I said before, what's currently on display are the most egregious and insidious and disgusting and systemic expressions of this, with racism, particularly in America, but also in Canada and all over the world, particularly in relationship to the Black community. And the varying degrees to which, different factions of society, different communities, different races have that within them, have that thought form, that particular thought form, which is just one really gnarly expression of that same illusion of separateness, that also can express in ways like judging a person's choices of how they want to practice their spirituality, what they ascribe to in terms of a religious belief, what their sexuality is. And any belief that those differences make a person less worthy of acceptance, less worthy of love, less worthy of equal treatment, are truly a form of mental illness, are truly a form of amnesia and a forgetting of who we really are at our core and what we really are. And we don't need to look very far to see that to some degree or another, we all carry this in us. We all have some of that or a lot of that going on in our consciousness. There's some other that presents in our lives, in the world around us, that we cannot love, cannot accept, cannot see as one with us because of the ways in which they are different. And until we are able to honor those differences and still see the soul, the heart, the being, the brother, the sister behind the skin color, the religious belief, the lifestyle choice, the sexuality, the whatever, we're part of the problem. And we have work to do. And the work starts right here. It starts with noticing and being willing to actually observe that within ourselves, being willing to actually acknowledge that that exists within us, being willing to feel that part of ourselves that wants to judge, that wants to be better than, or that wants to distinguish ourselves from the other in whatever way provides us a sense of safety or security or superiority, and to lean into transforming and transmuting that within ourselves until literally the goggles and the lens through which we view the other starts to change, and we can see something that is an expression of a deeper truth, something that is an expression of that oneness. And feel that, and actually feel that in relation to something that was once other. And we can do this work in our relationships, we can do this in our households, we can do this when we go on social media and we see people who are expressing differing viewpoints. We can do this when we go out into the world and we come across other people who embody or exemplify the things that tends to bring that sense of separateness up in us. And we can practice looking through the lens of acceptance, through the lens of love, and through the lens of oneness, to recognize that even though I see a difference, or even though we are different in these superficial ways, really inhabiting the space where we can actually connect to the underlying truth of how we are all connected, how we are all from the same source, how we are all truly one. So that's the work that I believe we're all being asked to do. And we can each do that in our own way. And I also believe that anything that we do that isn't born of that work is not going to create a new result. And so I fully understand that different people are at different levels of awareness and different levels of capacity and different levels of being affected and activated by what's happening at the moment. And so all of those factors are going to influence how a person is able to respond as opposed to reacting. And I think part of the ask right now for all of us is to hold space for all of those different expressions, to hold space for the anger that's being expressed, to hold space for the rage, to hold space for the frustration and everything else. There needs to be space held for those things to be expressed, to be embodied in some way, to be felt by those that are feeling them, and within ourselves, to whatever degree we're feeling whatever it is that we're feeling. All those things have to be felt and witnessed, and space has to be held for those things, whether that's an individual holding space for themselves, or an individual holding space for another, or communities holding space for each other. All of us really have an opportunity to be a part of the solution by viewing whatever is coming up through the lens of compassion and through the lens of understanding. Okay, I see your pain. I see how deeply in pain you are, and I understand. And I'm not going to try to talk you out of it. I'm not going to try to spiritualize it before really giving you the opportunity to be witnessed in your pain and to feel that pain and to express it in whatever way you feel you need to. And that will take as long as it takes in each case. And at the same time, holding an awareness that if we want to create something different, then to the degree that we can actually take actions and come up with solutions and go out into the world and respond from a place of actually having done some of that alchemy, some of that inner transformation and transmutation, so that we're not reacting in the same energy from the same pain that's only going to infuse our action and bring more of that into the world, so much the better. And so for those who can and have the luxury, the privilege of doing that, that's your responsibility, to hold that space, to do that work for yourself and to support others to the whatever degree you can, regardless of where you land in terms of the particular narratives or the particular, surface level distinguishing features, because we're all going to have different experiences of this and a different response to this and different degrees of shame and grief and pain and anger and rage, and it all needs to be processed in some way. And ultimately, the inner is going to affect the outer, the micro is going to affect the macro, and the place where we each have the opportunity to actually make a difference and to take some power back from what we're seeing in the world that perhaps is of our creation and isn't at the same time, is to do the work to make the change within ourselves, to whatever degree we can discover and be real about the ways in which the things that we're seeing in the world outside of us exist within us. And it all boils down to the same thing. Are we able to recognize the thing that unites us, the common thread that is woven throughout all of these worldly things that are happening? Is that we're being asked to appreciate and acknowledge and embrace and accept the things that make us different, while never forgetting and falling into the illusion of believing that we're truly separate and that we're anything other than one. I hope this is of some value. I'm sending out love. I'm sending out love to anyone that's suffering right now, anyone that's feeling pain, that's feeling grief, that's feeling uncertainty. Let's do the work. All of us. No one's off the hook. It starts with each of us, and we can do it. This is the time. This is our opportunity to really shape the trajectory of our own life's unfolding and the history of what is to come, to shape this earth and these societies for future generations to come. It starts right now.